Hey there, this is Dina Fender, your middle and high school science content specialist. And today we're going to take a peek into unpacking the science content standards for middle and high school. We're going to be using the 2014 science standards to identify cognitive demands and essential knowledge needed to target that particular standard, and create an unpacking standards matrix that links content with instructional strategies and resources. So what does the process of unpacking standards involve? First, we need to identify the cognitive demands. What is the student going to be doing with the content? Then we need to think about the prior knowledge. What has the student already learned in previous grades? This could be conceptual knowledge, or it could be key vocabulary terms. Establishing clear objectives. We need to make sure that our objective statements are purposeful and aligned with the standards. And finally, identifying some key instructional strategies that will help students master this standard. So unpacking the standards process, we're going to look at the verbs, identify nouns, any prior knowledge or prerequisite knowledge that the student may have, and instructional strategies. We're going to start out with a high school example and end with a middle school example. So first, I would look at our South Carolina science standards. Our science standards start out a little bit broad, with the broad topic of ecosystem dynamics. Then you'll notice that there is a conceptual understanding. The conceptual understanding is going to include all of the performance indicators below it. But this is kind of the take-home message students would need to know at the end of the unit. So everything kind of goes back or ties back to the conceptual understanding. And then we have the performance indicators. And this is going to be kind of the day-to-day standard, our performance indicator standard that we are aligning our lessons to. This is what students are going to be knowing and doing in our classrooms. And so we're going to focus on the performance indicator level today. So we're going to look at HB 6A1. This is kind of a lengthy one. Analyze and interpret data that depict changes in the abiotic and biotic components of an ecosystem over time or space, such as percentage change, average change, correlation, and proportionality, and propose hypotheses about possible relationships between the changes in the abiotic components and the biotic components of the environment. Phew, that's a long one. However, we're going to unpack the standard to really figure out what students need to do with this information. So the verbs in here are analyze, interpret, depict, and propose. So they're going to do 4 things, possibly with this content. The nouns, data, changes, components, ecosystem, time, space, hypotheses, relationships, changes, components, and environment. And so there's a lot of nouns, kind of content knowledge there. Different components could be abiotic or biotic. And then we look at the prior knowledge, and I just copied and pasted this straight from the support document. It looks like in 6th grade, the 6L4B2 and N3, they had something about adaptations and animal responses in the environment. In 7th grade, they had something on the biotic and abiotic factors and levels of organization. So they had some kind of prior knowledge or key vocabulary. And so instructional strategies, I'm going to look at the State Department website for a few instructional strategies. I'm going to look possibly looking at data sets to see changes in biotic and abiotic factors. Parentheses will tell what kind of data to interpret. So again, they're going to be analyzing and interpreting data. This is the science and engineering practice that they're going to be doing. And they're going to be analyzing and interpreting things from abiotic or abiotic factors. And so I might be looking for percent change, average change, correlation, or proportionality. Those are the types of graphs or data sets that I would be examining. And so, again, I just went to the instructional unit page on the State Department website, and they have 3 ideas, or 3 links to ideas right off the bat. So you might be able to check those out to give you a start, or to give you a place to collect data or find data to support that science and engineering practice. This next example comes from the middle school, from the Forces in Motion unit. Again, 8P2, that means it's a physics standard. The P stands for physics. And so the student's going to demonstrate an understanding the effects of forces on motion and the stability of an object. Pretty straightforward for the entire unit. Our conceptual understanding is fairly lengthy, and there are several performance indicators below connecting that conceptual understanding. We are going to take a look at planning and conducting controlled scientific investigations, this first one. And so our verbs are plan, conduct, and test. This is what students will be doing. Our nouns, controlled investigations, amount of force or mass, motion, shape, orientation, or object. Again, looking at the prior knowledge, what straight out of the support documents. In 2nd grade, they looked at pushes and pulls and friction. And in 5th grade, they looked at factors that change force. Some key instructional strategies might be that students are manipulating variables, the force or mass of an object, and measuring the motion, shape, or orientation change. The key word here is that the students are manipulating the variables. In the past, we've had teachers giving students directions, and teachers setting up the entire experiment for the students. That is not the intent of the standard. The standard explicitly states, plan and conduct controlled scientific investigations. That's what students are doing, not teachers. All right, so packing up this lesson. As you recall, prior knowledge is content students have already been exposed to. Verbs, they lead to particular skills, and these verbs throughout the science standards are your science and engineering practices. Nouns lead to the particular content, so key vocabulary, especially with the nouns. Instructional strategies, they should be intentional, varied, and aligned with the SEPs. I would look into the instructional units on the State Department website or our own Richland 2 curriculum guide for those instructional strategies. So it's your turn to unpack. I challenge you to choose three science standards from your course, complete an unpacking matrix with all the key information, and share and give editing rights to me, Dina Fender, via Google Docs. I'd love to see what you come up with and give you feedback. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, feel free to email me, and happy unpacking.